Hey Zephyr, how you doing?
Good. I'm just distracting people. We're at the Golden Mint. We're just doing this video watch along thing and
Cool. How's everything been today? Yeah, there's a lot going on for sure. It's time to hunker down. Right. Yeah, it's times like this that really kind of highlight how interdependent everything is. Yep, absolutely. And there's a lot of conversations going on around having collateralized or algorithmic stablecoins or half collateralized. I mean, there's a big conversation to be had about what's going to happen there. Um, oh yeah. Well, I think that the big players they're here, they're observing, and things like what happened to UST uh, kind of just shows that eventually that some of these people who are in traditional finance will be making moves, um, because they'll be seeing, bears will be bears, and if they see a weakness, then they'll, well, yep. So I mean, that's all part of stress testing the system. So um, it's a bad thing, but it's also just part of it, and it's all going to lead to everything being more safer and secure, and like there'll be eventually some sort of regulation. Hopefully, it will be something that makes sense in terms of like, yeah, like focused on something systemic that helps rather than treating a symptom rather than the underlying cause, which often is what people are worried about happening. Yeah. A lot of times people show up like 10 or 15. Yeah, I have. Everybody, that it sometimes it's quiet, and I just kind of like lay out my updates for the week. I just kind of read them out and then record them. So we are recording right now. I always record the AMAs, and then if it's a slow week, then I'll just do my update. And then if there's someone around to talk, then whatever topics come up, then we can go that way. So I mean, thank you for showing up. It's always more fun to have a dialogue rather than just kind of giving an update. But yeah. Um, That's okay. Hey, man, it's an AMA. It's meant to be a free form thing. It's not some sort of we're it's this is real. We're just it's for the investors to get a sense of what's going on, and part of that's just getting a sense of who we are. I mean, we can put up all of our biography and our background and everything, but just the best thing is, yeah, sure. I mean, I just have a couple of things I'm gonna talk through, but if you have any thoughts as we go through, don't worry. I mean, it's not something that it's that big of a deal. Honestly, it's always fun to stop and kind of hash things out. So, if you can stick around, that's great. Yeah, yeah, not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. So as far as like so what's been going on this week, guys, is that we have worked with our design department on our landing page, the more intricate final copy that'll have our graphic assets, that'll have some movement to it and some 3D aspects and things like that. There was like a big jump in where we're at with our design team and some of the things they came up with. We had been really struggling with some details and making sure that the site not only like visually looked impressive and clean, but that it also kind of communicated our brand and the idea behind how all of the apps are going to have some interconnected aspects to them. And so it's an ecosystem with individual protocols that make up pieces of the ecosystem. And that's going to be communicated in a sort of a DNA sort of imagery with benzene rings. So if you've ever looked at the octagon or hexagon shaped chemical descriptions in science books, you'll sometimes see a double helix with some little octagons coming off that represent different chemical compounds. And so we're going to play off those kinds of images in giving some shape to the descriptions of our ecosystem. So that'll be fun for people to look at. It'll feel a little bit more interactive, and so I'm excited. We got uh, our branding. We already had our branding colors, but now we're getting down to like what the weights of the different secondary and tertiary colors on the website are going to be. So it's going to make it pop even more. And So that was like a big development this week because it is going to take a while for the movement that has to be built coded into the site to be finalized. But that's all in terms of the assets themselves. That's been figured out, and before that happens, we'll get updated assets for our Twitter page and for the banner for Discord and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So all of our branding will switch over to the branding that's on the website now, and also our heroes. So the what shows on the website above the fold most likely will have a static image that changes um, relatively soon, and then later, once the design team has had a chance to make it all have movement on the page, then the full page will be reloaded with all of the new kind of uh, fun imagery. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I am too. I think the site looks, clean now, but it's going to look a lot more. Yeah, it does. It does have some red, and it has a little bit of like more kind of very light blue and some purple. Um, and Yeah, yeah, it's not like an eggplant or something like that. It's gonna be like it's primarily gonna be the background color is basically gonna be, just a touch darker than it is now, and it's gonna make the red kind of have more of a glowing kind of look to it. Yeah, it's gonna not like be neon, but it's more in that sort of cyberpunk kind of feel where things feel like they're slightly glowing a little bit here and there. Yeah, not like full on neon, but just like has that look like maybe it's like, the yeah, yeah, just a little bit luminescent with a pretty dark background color. So, it'll be clean. It'll look like a fintech kind of feel to it, but it's gonna have just that slight bit of gamification feel to it that is pretty common in DeFi. It'll feel like a DeFi site. So, and then also we think that the color combinations, I can't think of any particular DeFi site that has that specific combination of colors. So I feel like it'll stick out when people go to the site, and then when we develop all of the front end on the DApp, it'll have a specific feeling that will be a little bit different than other popular sites, and it'll give us the ability to have some memory for people when they think through where have they been. Um, So then on the other side of that, that also allows us to get a little bit more into developing the UI for the Blaze DApp, which I had already started working with Firefly and Phoenix and Glitch, and also we have a front end dev named Prof that is going to start coding the front end. So we have been working on a mock-up design for that, and so right now we're kicking that into full gear to give him, the green light to start coding all of that stuff now that we are 100% on what we kind of the direction we want to go visually. Um, so that's actually been a lot of a big part of what's been going on the engineering technical side, yeah. And then the other thing has just been just a lot of conversations. We've been having a lot of meetings with different people, with potential partners, with potential investors, and yeah, all of them will be very recognizable. I mean, if you look at the ones that we have will be not only recognizable, but they have some of the largest TVL and DeFi. So, um, yeah, no, that everyone will. I mean, everyone will be very happy with the folks that are going to come on board to offer exposure to their assets, and I think that the strategies that they're going to employ are going to be like um, super attractive for people to get into, especially the way that they'll be designed, where you'll be able to have access to that exposure on whatever chain you want to be on. If they're on one chain, you can be on any of the other chains that we're offering and deposit on, anywhere from AVAX, Phantom, or Polygon, and still have exposure to another chain without actually having to bridge. And so I think it'll be good for everybody involved. So I think I expect it to do well. Um, sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, some of the chains or some of the protocols that we want to work with are multi-chain. Um, it's just a matter of, what they're offering on which chain because they don't, some multi-chain, sometimes like for if you take for instance Aave doesn't offer all of the same assets on every chain that they're available on. And so it may be that in a business to business partnership with somebody that fits that kind of description that we're able to talk to them about providing liquidity on a certain chain in order to make the best. you know, yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah. And that's the thing is like I think we'll be able to like fill some gaps there with protocols that are maybe multi-chain but aren't one of those chains and offer them exposure to some different different people and that kind of like segues uh pretty nicely into the other thing that I kind of wanted to just kind of think about and speak a little bit about is just the idea of home chain and things that are going on in the ecosystems of these different blockchains. Um, so in terms of on the um, DApp side, on our own ability for Blaze to invest into protocols, we'll have exposure to not only Phantom, Avalanche, and Polygon, but also Ethereum. Um, but from the depositing side, you know, until there, it seems like it might be that there's a desire for somebody to be able to deposit from Ethereum specifically, which could happen if we reached a certain TVL and people could deposit at a size where they felt like um, Ethereum made sense. That's definitely something we'll do in the future. Not to mention adding other chains on, because I know that there are other um, protocols we'd like to be. partnering with that are thinking about moving to other smaller side chains that present new opportunities. So, that will all eventually come. But right now, we have Phantom, Avalanche, and Polygon to kind of focus on. Um, so, that brings up just what are the cost benefits of these different chains, and that really is I mean, that's such a subjective topic, which is why I keep trying to get people to bite on giving an opinion on that kind of stuff here in our community. And I think that there's a couple different ways to look at it, which really kind of color um, the way that you describe the opportunity. So if you're looking at it from an investor standpoint and which protocols you have exposure to on different um, chains, then that's like a really um, very specific way of thinking about it. So on Phantom, obviously Phantom's got a ton of DeFi. They've got a lot of different styles of DeFi. They've got several different protocols that would be considered blue chip protocols. They have the tech to be very fast and very cheap. Um, and so like that, there's a lot of people who are Phantom maxis. There are also a lot of people that are Avalanche maxis. Avalanche has got a much larger, um, TVL at this point, and I would say they don't necessarily have more. They don't have more well-known protocols, although they may have just as many DeFi protocols. I think they have a consolidated group of protocols that are considered the blue chips, but they're not as quite as many of them. Probably because some sort of what's happened is like some of them have come and fallen off, like Wonderland, and now they're kind of in this regrouping phase where there's this next wave of protocols that seem to be coming up, like Platypus and Vortex and um, Trader Joe's. They're all retooling right now. And then Yeti Finance. They're definitely out there, but they're kind of in a regrouping phase right now. And yeah, and the cool thing is that, that the Wonderland situation, it didn't like draw down the whole ecosystem because Avalanche does have, NFTs, they have gaming, they have metaverse stuff like so. Yeah, so they've gotten big enough where it didn't quite hurt the system. And I think, Phantom blew up hugely, but it also is so very DeFi centric that, some of the downside of having a very active community has like on the short term kind of been tough for them. And I think that they're going to focus on business to business partnerships and probably find a way to grow their way out of the volatility currently. Yeah, but they're not quite in the same situation as Avalanche and their foundation teams. It's a slightly different focus on each chain, and that brings me to Polygon because I think like Polygon is kind of also in a in between phase, but in a totally different way because Polygon's never really been known or focused on DeFi. But like Phantom, they have very cheap gas. They actually have cheaper gas than Phantom right now. Um, and they actually, they have a connection to Ethereum mainnet. So even though they don't necessarily have that many protocols that are considered um, Polygon native protocols, they have a lot of um, multi-chain protocols that are also available on Polygon. And if there is a catalyst that could have as a second coming um, with that too, and I think that that's happening because of the fact that we now have this new business development going around Instagram being on Polygon and Stripe being integrated with Polygon, and I think that the Polygon team seems to really have like they're doing a good job of the biz dev stuff where they are the way that you really scale up is to find some other industry that you can integrate products with. And so if somebody is on Instagram and they're like, oh, my friends are getting NFTs, I want to get some NFTs. And so like, how'd you get your NFT? Oh, I had to go to Polygon. So then through association, yeah, that's how you scale up is by taking something that people know and then you get your name dropped in with that thing that's much more higher scaled up. And so I think that that's there's no hype around that yet, but that could really lead to something. Um, yeah, and that's kind of deceptive because Phantom's gas can be at 9,000 Gwei and it's still 5 cents, and Avax's or Avalanche's gas can be at 190 Gwei and it can be $10. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and they're actually integrating a new scaling solution right now as this is happening. So it's a bad I think it's like a bad timing for PR, but like the thing about Phantom is that they always have been sort of tech centric. Hey Carlos, how's it going, man? We're just kind of talking about different chains and what would be the pluses and minuses of which one was chosen as a home chain. So, um, right, right. So, if you look at it from a community standpoint, there's not really a whole lot of shilling of Polygon or Matic per se, but when you look at it from a business development standpoint and the fact that they're bringing on these major enterprise partnerships, there's a large opportunity there. And so that's, I think you have to weigh both things, like it's great to get into a very organic community that has a lot of enthusiasm backing it, like Phantom. But obviously, FUD can kind of swing either in the other direction. But nonetheless, like it's a very DeFi centric place, and so if you're a new protocol, there's a lot of support there from just like the humans. And right, but I mean, no, you go ahead, sir. Thank you. I was just going to say that Avalanche, also is almost as well recognized by people who aren't necessarily DeFi people. Um, but yeah, and they definitely have a bigger TVL right now, which doesn't necessarily like specifically speak to our protocol, but is a consideration when you think about just the available liquidity to leverage by our. But then again, that's just for governance, right? We'll be on all of those chains. We'll be able to market ourselves as a protocol that somebody could, deposit on any of our chains and still have exposure to chains without bridging. That's that. I think that's tough call. I mean, I can I can look a little bit less far out than that. But I mean, I think they're all going to be players. Yeah, I mean, um, I think in the next 6 months, that oh, that's a tough call. I mean, in terms of which one will be doing the best as a ecosystem. I mean, I think Avalanche. Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, like I was saying, I think Avalanche, like several of their protocols are um, ramping up. That they're in like really good shape. There's a lot of interest there. Um, they have a good. Their foundation's doing good work. Um, so I think Avalanche is going to do well despite the current conditions. In relation to the current conditions. I think that like individual protocols on Polygon, I see a couple of them popping up that are kind of interesting. For instance, there's Olive DAO, which is just going to be launching, and they're the former. Some of them were related to Kepler DAO, I want to say. It's not like an Ohm fork or anything like that. This is more about like scaling liquidity for protocols almost. It's almost more protocol centric than it is for liquidity, just independent liquidity providers. Um, th- yeah, they have some, they seems like they have some, some backing behind them. They've got a really nice UI that, seem to be doing a little bit of marketing. They've got a pretty decent sized community from what I could tell. And then, like there's Sphere Finance, there's Firebird Finance that, is kind of on Polygon. It's also kind of Phantom centric. It seems like a lot of their community is Phantom centric. And then you've got people that are still kind of hanging on, like Klima, which I don't really know how to describe them now because it seems like they're not. It's such a different model. It's not really about. I mean, they're about carbon sequestration, so it's not really something where someone's going to look for a yield opportunity per se, but it is an interesting business. Um, Narrative. So like there's this core of different, and then you have like Balancer, you've got Aave, you've got Qidao or Qidao, I'm not sure how you say that. You have like some slightly larger protocols that, are they're doing fine. They're not exposed on any particular chain. So they're all part of the community. And I noticed that there's a couple of new marketing people on the Polygon Foundation that I have started following on Twitter, and I think Phoenix reached out to a couple to them of them. So you know, I think that there's a potential there for Polygon to be in a different place where maybe it is. It seems a little bit more exciting in 6 months. I just don't know. I mean, there's not really much momentum at the moment, so I mean, it's kind of a building. For protocols, it's a good time to be building. So from a yeah, so maybe not from an investor viewpoint, but from a potential investment standpoint, maybe that there is some reason to have optimism on Polygon. I think Phantom is just kind of they're dealing with different kinds of wrinkles in their overall ecosystem. They've got like Harry Ye developing Felix, and there's a lot of questions around how that's going to affect the chain. And there's other protocols that have gotten pretty big. They've got to make sure that they can keep their runway going during this downturn. Um, there's obviously a ton of great developers on Phantom, so like it's one of those things where I know that Phantom is gonna be fine and do well. I don't know where they're going to be in 6 months though in relation to the other chains that are more DeFi centric. It's kind of hard to tell. I was kind of done with my thought. Carlos, if you have any thoughts, please let me know. Or Zephyr, go ahead if you were had something you were in this. Yeah, I decided not to. I'm recording this, so there it's going to be on Instagram, and or on YouTube, and I wanted to be able to um, have some sort of a visual. I don't really have much to show in the way of visuals. I thought about doing some mock-ups of the website design that that Owls gave us because it's got some of like that DNA slash benzene ring graphics that they're working on that are kind of cool. And but I don't, I'm not sure if they're quite at the point where they're finalized, and so I don't want to do that yet. So I decided I just. Mhm. Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Right, right. And there's some other side chains too that I think are going to have their 15 minutes of fame coming up pretty soon. Like that there was that announcement that Balancer and Beethoven X are gonna develop a DEX on Optimism, I believe. And then I also found out that Tarot is going to go multi-chain, and they're going to be on Optimism. And I think um, Granary Finance maybe is going to be going to Optimism. Is what I think I heard on Phantom Unchained today. So um, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, there's too much to know about. I mean, if you ask me about Metis or about Near or I, yeah. I mean, yeah. So you're the IOTA guy, but I'll try to cover some of the other stuff. We're gonna try. I mean, I think we're definitely. So we do have one completely finalized partnership for a container, I would say, and then we have two others that we're just sort of discussing the container strategy. But basically, the partnership is a done deal. So um, I would anticipate. I know for the first one that's basically already settled that we have an agreement to go do an AMA with their community. And honestly, what we found in my, just talking with the other team leads, like our sense is that outside of spending like real marketing dollars to like get serious reach and attention, the AMAs have like the best results when you go into another community and then talk to them about your project. That seems to bring in the actual most investment. It, yeah, yeah, and then, I mean there is also obviously a plan to do the spending on particular kinds of marketing. Like we did talk to a video production company about an explainer. The script's already written. Kind of like this, talked about like what it would be to get it done, and then there's also like I've started scripts on some other screen explainers on Blaze Protocol, so that's all kind of like the bullets in the chamber, and I guess kind of right now it's just a question of um, timing, right? Because we don't, we're still developing the doing still the coding's still ongoing, the development of the UI on the dApp's still ongoing, and so um, there's not a huge rush, to get it out. Although obviously there is from the standpoint of we just want it to be ready to go, but like we want to do a good job and not rush it. So then just thinking about timing, you know, when do we time the release of something like that? And it does take like a certain number of weeks for a really nice video to be produced. Um, so, you know, that's all kind of right, right. Yep. So, um, right. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, Glitch being a security, like that's what his job has been as a dev. It's been security focused. I mean, there's a lot of redundancy in the framework of or in the architecture of the Blazed app. Um, and so it just, I'm sure it will be done as quickly as can be done in a responsible way. I mean, like it's interesting, there's no forks coming out right now. There's very little development that you can see right now, and that a couple of months ago is like something coming out every day. And when you're dealing that kind of development where you're just like copy pasting and then it's a lot of just going through and making sure that something didn't get missed. But then when you're building something new, it's like a totally different thing. So yeah, just got to be responsible. Anyway, I that was really what I kind of wanted to cover for the week was just that, there was like a big update on the website, and the graphic design stuff, and hopefully, we'll be able to get Owls to give us updated graphics that will kind of match the new website branding before the full um, finalized website is uploaded. Get the graphics that will kind of go with that, and get a banner for Twitter, for Discord, YouTube, and all of that, and start using the new um, updated branding. And then we've been working on the Blaze UI, UX, and the front end dev, who's called Prof, who's here in the server, is going to be working with all the team leads on getting the wireframe going and the coding. We've already kind of started doing a little bit of layout on that with the engineering team, and so hopefully we're gonna build out the UI in parallel with the back end, and hopefully we'll be able to get the front end at a point where we can start showing the community the basic layout, and then we can get community feedback before we're done with it, so that we can make tweaks and have a product that everyone's excited about. So yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and sign off on the recording, but we'll just stay here in the chat. So anybody who had any questions about what we talked about today, please drop a comment in the questions thread, or you can reach out to me in a DM, and we will see you guys next week.